Hello, a very warm welcome to our students, alumni and friends in the UK and across the world. I'm James McEwen from the University Campus of Football Business here in Wembley, and we've got a very special guest today giving us an insight into the world of top-level football playing and management. To briefly introduce him, as a player, he won a plethora of titles, including 6 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups, and scored one of the most famous goals ever to clinch the 1999 Champions League title. He's now, in my humble opinion, as a Manchester United fan, got the biggest job in world football as the manager of United. And he joins us today where I'm sure we'll all be able to take some great nuggets of information and apply them to our careers or future careers in the sports industry. So welcome and thank you for joining us, Ole.
It's a pleasure, James. Thanks for that introduction. I didn't know you were a Man United supporter, so that bides for a good interview, hopefully.
Yeah, one of the great days of my youth, watching that Champions League final it was, and I'm sure you're reminded about it all the time.
Yeah, definitely, but that's a moment that you don't mind being reminded of.
Yeah, exactly. So, lockdown, we're leaving lockdown. The Premier League has just returned after a 3-month hiatus due to coronavirus, and must have been quite a challenging period for you. What were the challenges of training, motivating the players during the lockdown when you're not even able to meet them in person?
Of course, it's been unprecedented times and it's been difficult. Different levels of difficulty, because one, you feel guilty not being able to work. But also, as you said, we're not able to meet and speak face to face. So technology has helped a lot, obviously, as we sit here on Zoom. We used video conferences a lot with especially the last 3 or 4 weeks before we got back again, when we knew more or less that we were coming back. But we were in touch with the boys, with the coaching staff, and I was literally daily, at least, making sure that we made contact with people and players and try to make sure they were okay and that they had everything they needed, because they're young athletes and the uncertainty was difficult, not knowing if it's 2 weeks, 2 months until we meet again. So they were brilliant, to be fair. Good lads, working hard, trying to keep the fitness.
And dealing with adversity, dealing with unexpected challenges is something we hear a lot of leaders say comes with the territory, being in sport and football. Is that something you've learnt over the years, dealing with adversity?
Yeah, definitely. You just have to take setbacks as a, how do you call it, learning, but also a kick up the backside, if you like, that we might believe that we're on the right track, but sometimes sport kicks you in the face and you might have to re-evaluate. You might make some bad decisions, but it's all in the same process of making yourself or the team or the club better and stronger.
Now, you've been manager at United since last year, after a very successful playing career. Can you appreciate the size of United now, or even more now that you are managing this team?
I think when I was a player as well, I realized how massive Man United is worldwide, how many supporters we have everywhere, how much interest there is in the media, social media, fans. Always the talk of the town is Man United. So I don't think that's any different. The difference for me personally, when I'm a manager, there's more people coming up to me, speaking to me, recognizing me. When I was a player, I had David Beckham and Ryan Giggs and Roy Keane and Paul Scholes to hide behind. So now there's more attention on me, but that's no problem. To make it as a player under Sir Alex, you have to have a certain personality anyway. You have to deal with the good and the bad of football, and I think them 15 years I had as a player and a coach before have helped me a lot in preparing me for this job.
You guys clearly had a very strong winning culture back as a player, and we hear a lot of your former teammates talking about the culture in the changing rooms. Do you guys have you tried to rekindle any of that culture now that you are manager, or is it any different to what it used to be?
I felt coming into the club, there had been changes, a lot of changes since Sir Alex left, or since I left as well, from what my last memories were, and that the successful winning team. And gradually but surely, I think I'm getting the feel that we are getting back to the right values. I think maybe we'd lost our way a little bit as a club. But then that's easy for me to say. But as you said, it's the players drove the culture. Yeah, Sir Alex at the top, he made decisions. He was the leader. We followed him, but he made players feel important and feel that we had to drive it. We had some exceptional personalities in the group, and you can see by how many now still works in football as either a pundit, an expert, a manager. So we drove the culture.
These little bits are just so interesting to hear about, the day-to-day workings of being at Man United.
And you have to have a strong dressing room to make sure that you just don't accept okay, because okay might be okay. You might go home and say there's another day tomorrow, but if you want to win, you can't accept that for long.
I think that it's fascinating to hear what you say about Sir Alex, and obviously he's still a big part of the club. How has your relationship with him evolved from player to now you're the manager and he's on the board?
It's been a fascinating evolution and development, to be honest. I still remember the first day I met him at Old Trafford when I was going to sign my contract. We had a lunch together. I chatted to him. He said the first 6 months you'll just have to spend with the reserve team probably, and then maybe next season you can get into the first team. And I was in awe and almost afraid of him. And then gradually you get to know him and you learn his tricks and learn how he works and what he demands of you. And now I'm still in touch with him. I remember the first day when I took over the club, and I texted him after the game. I was so happy, and he'd been out celebrating our win. And still now, during some difficult times, difficult periods, he's been a great help in just those little. He just made me remember those little things that are important when you're a Man United manager. And he always had my back. He said he'd always support me.
Seems to be it's a great tradition at United, and I can feel the club trying to keep that tradition from the past decades coming through. But you must have a difficult balancing act to do between trying to bring through the United way versus things change, times change, and how do you perform that balancing act?
100%, 100%. Because I can't say, well, we used to do it this way under Sir Alex. That was in the 90s and early 2000. That doesn't. That can't be the way to think. For me, it's about the old school, old core values. Though I think they are so important of the DNA of this club, of being humble, working hard, being a Manchester United type of person, because we know on Saturday or Sunday there's still fans there that have been supporting the club for so many years, been working hard all through the week to come and watch us. And the style of play we want to do as well. We want to play a Man United way. We want to give the youth a chance. We want to take risks. They're core values. But then 2020 compared to 1999, you've got to move with the times and the technology and the coaching methods and the call it management of millennials. it's a different. I have to manage the young boys now different to what Sir Alex did, because, well, we talk about the millennials and then they need to be spoon fed, but they need to be seen and heard and felt, feel important, which is still old school values that you need to connect and have a good relationship with your both your players, but also every member of staff and every member of who you're working with, that they can feel I'm an important part of this club, and the results what I did on a Monday morning, maybe cleaning the boots or putting the food out or cats sitting in the reception, that made the players win on Saturday. So it's still old core values that I live by.
I think a lot of people really like the fact that you've tried to keep everything grounded and based in the values of United, but still.
Why should footballers think they're better than anyone else? We are good at playing football, and we get lots of praise when we play well. Yes, we get criticism when we don't do well, but as long as you go out there and do your best every day in training, that will stand you in good stead when you turn up on Saturday and play the game of football, because you know you're prepared well. Well, hands up if someone else are better than us, but we have done the right thing by ourselves, and we've not let anyone down with our attitude.
Absolutely. I'll just touch on a couple more about your current role.
Yep.
Before we move on to the past and your development. The scrutiny as Man United manager is to be expected. Constant media pressure, speculation about your job, role of a manager. Every day there's a Manchester United soundbite. How do you deal with that constant media pressure and speculation?
Absolutely no problem. No problem. I've had many years as a player, and I've sort of gotten used to the scrutiny. And you know yourself if you've done a good job. Well, I do feel so anyway, that did we do what we had to prepare the players for that game? Did I make the right decisions? Yes. Maybe the result went wrong because I made a decision to play player A instead of player B. But the decision to play player A was the right one. It just didn't get the right result, because I know the reasons why the decisions. So I never pay too much attention to the media, and that's one of the advice that Sir Alex gave me as well before I went into my coaching and management career.
And on a specific level, especially for our media students wanting to work in football media, do you have the role of the press officer? Is that quite handy? Do you have a close relationship with them? Do they help you with all of that?
You need a strategy, and you need to think on the bigger picture. You can't react to every little thing. And yes, definitely that me and the club and the press department and the media department, that we do have a good relationship, and I just don't fly off on my own, and we do have a link there as well.
Okay, so now on to the playing stuff, if that's okay.
Yeah.
There's some famous moments in your career, of course, and the team in general was famous, all conquering at times. So I want to get a little bit of insight into what made that magic. And Fergie time, of course, is a phrase bandied out all the time. You guys played till the final whistle. It scored late goals in important games. Many examples of that in your case. What is it about the mentality of a team that means they don't switch off? What does it take?
Oh, it takes a lot, but it's easy to do and easy not to do. But the attitude, we had a never give up attitude. We had personalities, as I've spoken about earlier on. We had winners in the group. We had a dressing room that drove each other on and didn't accept 99%, or effort. That's not enough. You had to give your everything for the team every single day. We had a manager who was hungry and wanted to win. But also he gave us that He trusted us so much. And of course, we were quality players. We had many good players and it's a different era now as well. Say 20 years ago, 21 years ago, we won the Champions League. There was not as much tactical work, and not so much analysis. Now with the social media, video, every game is broadcast live. Everything's so much more tactical. I think we, with Sir Alex, were advanced, and we were ahead of many people back then.
And you personally, as a quote unquote super sub on many occasions, were you ever frustrated coming off the bench, or or how did you focus, if you were, on coming on and performing at that, and in that 20-minute period or whatever it ended up being?
I wanted to play as much as possible, but one of my, call it strengths or maybe weaknesses, if you like, depends on what side you're on, was to recognize, one, it was Sir Alex's team and he made the decisions, and two, I had some fantastic teammates, and I couldn't go and sulk if, for example, Andy Cole or Dwight York played, because they were fantastic players. Teddy Sheringham, if he played, I couldn't knock on the manager's door and say, well, I'm better than them, because they were absolutely top quality players, and I never disrespected any of my teammates and being really sulky and moody and showing it anyway. I was deep inside, I just wanted to show the manager that he should play more. And it's down to the players. It is down to the players to prove that you deserve to play. And every day is a test. So when he left me on the bench, it was a test. If I started, that was another test. And if you let yourself and your team down more often than not, you'd be out. You'd be out of the team, out of the squad, and sold. That would be the easy thing.
One more on the sort of mental side of things as a player. You suffered a fair few injuries in your last few years, especially. Came back from them every time. Some of them were quite extensive. How did you deal with that psychologically? That time away from the game, the constant frustration, must be tough as a player. Yeah,
of course you want to play, but injuries, they're a part of being a footballer, that you get injured. I was quite lucky that I never got injured really until I was 30. But then when I got injured, it was a massive, difficult one to get back from. First, I missed about 4 months, came back and played for a little while, and then I knew I needed another operation, that one kept me out almost 2 years. And I felt guilty because you still got paid. You couldn't do what you're paid to do and what you're supposed to do, and help my teammates and help Sir Alex and help the club. Of course, I was like, you're a little bit embarrassed picking up your wages, but you still work really hard to get back, because that's the one sole focus, is to get back on that pitch. And to be honest, my motivation and drive was when I got injured in 2003. My eldest, my Noah, he was 3 years of age. And as I got back, making my comeback around about 2006, he was 6 years of age. And my drive and motivation was for him to remember Dad as a Man United player at one point. Obviously, I didn't know I was going to be the manager of Man United one day. So at least now he's got the Man United. He's got that feel. But because my dad was a wrestler, and he kept reminding me of how good a wrestler he was, but I'd never seen him wrestle. I just read in the paper clips or newspaper clips that he's got, and I've never seen him. So that was my motivation to get back, just to make Noah remember Dad as a Man United player. Amazing. What an athletic family you have there. well, I never seen my dad wrestle, so I don't know if it was, but it was quite good apparently. Excellent. We'll move on to your managerial career then, if it's okay. Yep. Obviously, we've got a lot of students at UCFB and graduates making their way into coaching, into the world of coaching. How did you get such a super start to your coaching career in Norway? I think, one, I've always been very keen and interested in football, very keen on everything that's got to do with football and management of football, picking teams, picking systems, writing. You know, I've got my all-star team from the World Cup 1982 probably in my head still. So I've always been that type that I knew I would work in football. And I got 2.5 years at Man United in the reserves. 1 year as a forward coach with the first team. So that's 3.5 years working with the best of the best and learning from the best. Sir Alex, I learned off Carlos Queiroz, behind the scenes, René Mullenstein. I had Warren Joyce as my partner in the reserves, and I've learned so much from so many good football people with the right values. And when I went to Molde, I brought a couple of not friends of mine, a couple from Man United, Richard Hartis and Mark Dempsey, and we built a mini Man United of Molde. And I'm proud these days when I watch Molde, because they are a mini Man United. There is not just long balls and crossing and what I felt was Norwegian football back then, and how Molde played. We've changed them. I think those years at Man United's helped me, and us coming in with a little bit of a different mentality. And of course, we won the league the first 2 years. Then we won the cup. So that was fantastic. I signed a couple of I even signed a couple of players that had been at Man United, which of course helped.
Mm. And how's your coaching philosophy evolved, tactics change over the years? And I mean, prime example is when you were a striker, a forward back in the day, there were usually two on the field. Now you're talking about a lone striker, some attacking forwards. Things change. Have you evolved as a coach?
It used to be 4-4-2 back in the day, you know, in many teams. But I've never liked 4-4-2 because the angles of there's not a lot of angles there, triangles. I've always liked to have players who can make decisions, and number 10 who can float. I used to play with Eric Cantona. He was an absolute fantastic player, and I learned a lot from him. Tactically, as I said before, I think every team now can analyze you, and they know so much about you. So you might have to have something up your sleeve. Man United teams, though, and my teams, I like my teams to be able to attack quickly, not just giving away possession, because you always want to dominate the game. But when we've played this under certain circumstances, you must go back to a couple of principles and values. Attack quickly, pass forward, run forward, express yourself, show your quality. I've always picked teams, as I said, is it 4-4-2, 4-2-2-2-2, 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2. There's so many different systems that you'd like to try, and then you've just got to look at the squad and what kind of players you have, and try to maximize the set of players you have that can mold into a team. If you have 11 Ronaldos, I can bet you that team will lose every game. It doesn't help you to have the 11 best individuals. It still has to be a team, and they've got to work off each other.
Good stuff. Great to hear about all your coaching philosophies. We're going to go to a quick few questions that are, I'm sure a few of us are quite interested in, and they're more fast answers, and then we'll come to a few at the end about your final bits of advice. Staying on the management topic, which current manager would you have liked to play for, and why?
I'd like to say I'd love to play it under me. But no, there's so many good managers out there. I have to say it's been fascinating watching Pep Guardiola's teams. I think he's revolutionized football, the way he's coached his teams the last 10, 12 years or 15 years since he took over Barcelona. So I'd love to have seen more behind the scenes of Pep.
Teammates, who was your most influential or best teammate?
Ooh, I've been asked this question so many times, and I don't think it's fair for me to just pick one. I've always said, well, Eric Cantona was unbelievable to play with. Paul Scholes is probably the best all-round player that I've had. You know, David Beckham, the best crosser. Giggs was the best dribbler, and but then I played with Rooney and Ronaldo. But if I could choose one player from that I would have in my team, I would pick Roy Keane. I would always pick Roy Keane ahead of anyone to have, if I could put in my team that I'm managing.
Roy's actually, he came in to do a guest talk at our campus last year, and I think we'd all pick him as our favourite pundit guest speaker to have as well.
It depends what day you get him on.
Yeah, he's absolute value. Now, the toughest opponent that you faced?
Jaap Stam in training. He was a man mountain. Couldn't go past him. Jaap was unbelievable. And but I played against quite a few good ones. But you know, the best ones, when you played, for example, against Paolo Maldini or Tony Adams, you know, very, very good footballers that make you feel that I felt sometimes when I came off playing against them, I'd done okay. Then I watched the game again, and literally, I had a few touches. They didn't tackle me or kick me, but I created nothing. So maybe Paolo Maldini then.
Amazing. I'll finish off with a couple of focused on our students and our alumni, graduates who are wanting to work in your fields, in your sector. Education. I know it's your background as a professional footballer. You're straight into really high level football, and that's your life. But I'm sure education at some point has come into consideration. And how do you feel about education? Is it important? Is it useful to work in sport as far as you can see, as far as you've experienced?
As a footballer, if you're an aspiring footballer, or you cannot discard education. It's such a risky business to do. You can get an injury at any point, and you have nothing to fall back on. I lived at home until I made my debut for Molde at 22. So I still had the education. I even went 1 year to did my national service in the army. So for me, education is vital, and because it's such a precious job, and as I said, an injury can just stop it. So you've got to have something to fall back on. For me, I'm privileged, of course. I've played football. I've learned under Sir Alex. So I work in football now because of my experience. Well, I've loved football my whole life. I'd probably be an accountant if I didn't make it as a footballer, because I was quite good with numbers and maths. And but the coaching courses that we take, the diploma in football management, the LMA. So I love to learn new things. I think that, and especially regarding football.
I think I agree that it's very important to have a natural curiosity anyway about life, and we're always trying to encourage lifelong learning, and it never stops, really, does it?
Never stops, and you never become the fulfilled article as a footballer or whatever you do. If you think, that's it, I know everything, that's the day you go down with your quality of your work.
Now, just going to finish off on a final piece of advice, if you could, for our aspiring students and graduates who want to work in a big club or want to work in sport in an exciting capacity. It might not be in coaching. It might be as the press officer. It might be in the back business behind the club. Any advice to these young people who want to be in the kind of club that you're at?
I think follow your passion. I think it's important that you're passionate about what you do. That's maybe the most important thing. I've loved football my whole life, because if you come into work, into the environment, and you have a passion for what you do, you have a good personality about you. You're respectful. You want to learn, but you also want to show what you can do. I actually had that discussion today with one of the players as well. The balance between being humble, but also so confident that you can step forward and really believe what you're saying or what you're doing. So I think that's just trust yourself. You have to be confident enough in your own ability.
Ole, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, James. It's been a pleasure.